complex ownership structure, but it's got two offshore entities that control, ultimately, the company here in the United States. Podesta did not disclose his membership on the board of the master company or foundational company that runs the whole thing. He never listed it on his financial disclosures when he joined the Obama administration.
But I gotta ask this. I mean, as Bill Clinton, she's Secretary of State. Bill Clinton is giving all of these speeches.
Yeah.
And you've got the 17 of the 28 U.S., European, Russian companies that participated in Skolkovo, that they're all giving money to Bill. And meanwhile, she is actively pushing and encouraging them to do this deal with Russia. And this to me is a classic quid pro quo, kickback, use any term you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's got corruption throughout it. You've got, who are the people that get a seat at the table? American companies that give to the Clinton Foundation. And what they're supposed to get out of this, by the way, is special access to the Russian market. So they're getting a benefit. The Clintons are getting paid. The Russians on their side of the equation are getting paid. Everybody around this table is getting something out of it. The Clintons are getting money, the U.S. companies, and the Russians. The people who aren't getting anything, of course, are the American people, whose chief diplomat is engaged in this initiative that ends up benefiting the Russian military.
Let me go back for a second, if I can. Both you and my friend Steve Bannon put this piece together as well, and that is about John Podesta. Now, Russian officials received $35 million from well, let me backtrack. He sat on the board of the small energy company alongside Russian officials that received, and again, this is one of Hillary's and the Clintons' best friends, that received $35 million from a Putin-connected Russian government fund, a relationship Podesta failed to fully disclose on his federal financial disclosure reform. Is that required by law? Is that prosecutable?
That I don't know, but it is highly suspicious because the way they set up this management structure is basically to avoid taxes. They set up what's called a foundational company in the Netherlands, and it's similar to what the corporation IKEA does. So they run it through this foundational company, which does not have to pay taxes and does not have to disclose income the way that other entities do. This is how they structured it, and Podesta never mentions the fact that according to Dutch corporate records, he was on the executive board of this company at the time. That's a non-disclosure, and that violates the rules.
You know, you think back, and I keep highlighting this, I'm beginning to suspect, and I'm totally guessing here, this is just my own thoughts. I think what Julian Assange is suggesting here is what you and I have discussed for many years now. We look at the Clinton Foundation and, her taking money from all these countries that practice Sharia and kill gays and lesbians like Saudi Arabia, and you blew this wide open in your book. She doesn't criticize countries like Saudi Arabia because they gave up $25 million of the foundation, $10 million of the Clinton Library, and meanwhile they persecute gays and lesbians and put them to death. They persecute women and treat them like third-class citizens, tell them how to dress, say they can't drive, they need men's permission to go to work or school, 4 male eyewitnesses for a charge of rape, and then, of course, you can't build a Jewish temple and you can't build a Christian church. So they persecute women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews. She takes all this money, and that's a huge conflict of interest. And that, to me, means they bought her silence and any criticism she would otherwise give. In this case, now we're compromising, again, national security, and the money's being kicked back to Bill.
No, you're right. And Sean, the big tell for me is what was not said at the Democratic convention all week. None of the speakers, not Bill, Hillary, Chelsea, nobody else ever mentioned the Clinton Foundation.
Let me ask this. The Saudi government, there was a report in one news source that they're funding a fifth of Hillary's campaign for president. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think there is. I think with disclosures of campaign contributions, it would be very, very hard to do that, and there's no evidence. I do think, though, look, if you are the Saudis or a foreign oligarch, you don't have to figure out a way to finance the campaign. Hillary's going to have plenty of money. If you want access, if you want influence, you can just cut a check to the Clinton Foundation. And by the way they do disclosures, Sean, they only list the Saudis as donors of $25 million or more. They don't tell you what the more is. So we don't even technically know the full extent to which they've contributed to the Clinton Foundation.
Unbelievable. Blockbuster report. You can read it all on Breitbart. And we'll put it up on our website, link it on Hannity.com. Thank you so much, Peter. You keep being proven right again and again. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, 800-941-SEAN, our toll-free telephone.